The Secrets of Star Wars is brought to you by the Star Quest Production Network and is made possible by our many generous patrons. If you'd like to support the podcast, please visit sqpn.com/give.
Hi, this is Vanessa Marshall. I play Hera Syndulla on Star Wars Rebels, and you're listening to the Secrets of Star Wars podcast. May the Force be with you always.
You're listening to the Secrets of Star Wars, episode 86.
Hello there.
It's a power that Jedi have that lets them control people and make things float.
Impressive. Every word in that sentence was wrong.
Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're my only hope.
This station is now the ultimate power in the universe.
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
It's against my programming to impersonate a deity.
That's not how the Force works.
Force is with me, and I am with the Force, and I fear nothing.
Remember, the Force will be with you, always.
Hey everyone, I'm Father Andrew Kinstetter, aka Father Fett, and you're listening to the Secrets of Star Wars, where we talk about everything connected to that galaxy far, far away, including the deeper themes and meanings. Of course, just a reminder that if you want to get your own official Secrets of Star Wars t-shirt, you can do so by visiting sqpn.com/merch, available in various sizes and styles. So please go support us by going to sqpn.com/merch. Also, you can also join the StarQuest fan club mailing list by texting StarQuest to 66866. So that's text StarQuest, all one word, to 66866. Also, of course, just a friendly reminder to share the podcast on your favorite social media, so that way other people who you think would enjoy listening to us talk about Star Wars can find us, and definitely let us know how we're doing by leaving us a review on Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast player, because that also helps get the show seen by more people who would be interested in listening to our take on the Star Wars universe. So please do that for us, because that would help us out a lot. Today we are discussing the 13th episode of The Bad Batch. This is titled Infested. And joining me on the panel tonight are Angela Cialana.
Hey, good to be back.
It's good. Yeah, it's good to have all of us back. Well, half the crew, I guess, but the half that's been gone for a little bit. Second up is Mike Creevy.
Hey, everybody. How's it going?
It's going well. So yeah, this is the it's been a couple weeks since we've seen each other, so
it's like a reunion.
Right. Exactly. So before we jump into the Bad Batch, though, we have our official ham solo segment that we have been starting to do thanks to Mike Creevy. So the whole idea behind this is that, well, I guess, Mike, why don't you kind of give the background to it and then share your current take on it?
Well, I think, at least at my phase of life, being a dad with two young daughters and a somewhat hectic schedule, I try to find opportunities as they come up to entertain myself. When some of the things I just did in my youth isn't necessarily accessible, or I can't do it as much. So these little things pop in my mind, and I thought, wouldn't it be, I could just continue to just get a random number at the deli, or type Mike C in over and over again. That's just boring. So one day I think it started with Lord Vader, and I mean that was a pretty bold one to come out the gate with, I think. The title and everything, and Ben Kenobi. And as I've said before on the show, I feel like I'm not living up to the full potential of this, that even some of our listeners have already, of course, taken this and run with it, because where I get the most fun with all of this, typically at the deli each week at our grocery store, they don't say the name out. They don't even, right. They don't even put it up on the screen, which they put the number on the screen. But when they print the ticket, you get, and I'm showing it to my friends here on the chat right there, prepared for, and I'll say who in a second here, prepared for, and it's printed across the bottom. So this week it was none other than Admiral Ozzel. Don't particularly know why he was in my mind, but my rule is I basically don't plan it ahead of time. I just step up, and it's the first one that pops in my head as I'm typing it. So this was especially fun this week because my 4-year-old daughter got to receive it. And what's funny is we were waiting, though, and the lady almost said it out loud because she came to put it in the little basket, and she's looking, and I'm looking at her, and she's like, do you have a kiosk order? And I was like, yeah, But I don't know, maybe the fact that it said Admiral on it was especially like a cue. But I did, by the way, find out Admiral Kendall Ozzel of course, was played by, this is just interesting, I don't know if everybody knows this, I'm sure a lot of our listeners don't know this, Scottish actor Michael Sheard, who died a couple of years ago. But he, interestingly enough, I was looking into his background. He was a big Doctor Who alum, which I'm not a Doctor Who fan myself, but I know we have a lot of listeners in SQPN who are. So I guess he was on Doctor Who and was potentially in the running to be the Doctor at one point, but it didn't work out. But funny enough, what I know him from is his little tiny cameo as Adolf Hitler in Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. When they're in the arena and stuff where they're going through, and that hilarious moment where Indy gets forced by the crowd, just, and bumps into Hitler, and Hitler signs Dr. Jones's diary. Same guy. So, and consequently, he played Hitler 5 times in his career. So I don't know that that's something that I would want to be on my list. And Himmler 3 times. So apparently he was really good at playing a crisp, intimidating Nazi-esque kind of person. And that was clearly there with Ozzel's very short-lived screen career in Empire Strikes Back. So the last trivia, most interesting, George Lucas said that Ozzel's death was the best screen death he had ever seen.
Okay.
Wow.
So when he gets force choked from a distance by Darth Vader, that really impressed George Lucas. So there's little Admiral Ozzel's trivia for everybody, just for the heck of it. Why not?
Perfect. No, that's awesome. To be honest, I had to look him up when you shared out who the name was. And yeah, so he's in Empire Strikes Back, but
and General Veers, by the way, who's with him in that scene. I forget the actor's name. I didn't look that up, but he's of course Walter Donovan in Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. So there's a lot of alums there because of course Harrison Ford. You have so that was kind of a cool connection. I don't know.
No, that's great. Of course, listeners, we want to hear your stories about doing something like this too. The whole idea is, of course, to share a fun Star Wars name as you're going to Starbucks or going to the deli and seeing what happens. And so if you do that, take a picture, snap a video, and share it using the hashtag #HamSolo. And we will peruse those every week, and you can be featured on the show as a point of discussion in upcoming shows if we see you on the Twitterverse. So for the moment, it's just Mike who's doing it. I don't go out to those kind of places enough to get a name. I think a couple weeks ago I got an Order 66 happen in Subway, but.
I would love an audio or video. Like if someone could actually get the person having to say it out loud, that would probably be pretty cool.
Well, in places like, I know Starbucks used to do that. I assume they still do, but it's been so long since I've gone inside to do an order. But yes, a lot of those places will do that. So, so listeners, we want to find and hear some fun stories from you guys. So please do that, and we'd love to share what's happening on that front. So jumping from Delhi to Infested, what are your guys' first impressions of this Bad Batch episode?
Oh, well, I was I haven't been here for the episodes about Hera, so I was interested that we were going back then to the main storyline with the Bad Batch, and I liked this episode. I'm more so curious what seeds are they planting in this episode that are going to pay off later on? But I thought it was fun. I felt kind of like it was maybe pitching a new ride for Disneyland or Galaxy's Edge. And I really enjoyed the music, all the tremolos and the minor chords, that kind of horror sort of feeling. So it was fun.
Yeah, I agree, and basically with everything Angela said, I didn't want to come across skeptical or like a downer, because it wasn't that I didn't like it. I did like it. I like everything Star Wars, even the stuff that I like the stuff I don't like, if that makes sense.
Yep.
But so like I'm never going to complain about it. But I did make a little note. I had a little bit of, and I'm sure we can probably get into it, which might just come through discussion, but just sort of like, what about this episode, like trying to be as objective as I could, like what did we really need, from it, was something I was thinking, just in terms of like kind of like what Angela was saying about, sowing seeds of some kind of payoff, mainly because I just kind of felt like if, we're at episode 13 and there's only like supposed to be 15. I couldn't help but wonder, like, we're pretty, one way or another, pretty close to the end of the season, and I'm thinking like, well, I'll mention later, like some other questions I had, like, what about this? What about that? Where's this person? So I did struggle a little bit with just some of those things, wondering, like, there's got to be a reason, but I didn't quite see, like, should this have been a little earlier or maybe throw something else in? But overall, I really enjoyed it, so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So my first point on this was I put in my notes, thank God, no spiders.
Yeah.
So with a title like Infested,
said, guess what I expected? Because Father sends me a text like, or it was in our group chat. It was like 2 days before the episode. He's like, spiders this Friday? I'm like, no, please don't.
Yeah. So I was very thankful for that, because we've gotten spiders and other things, but So I would definitely kind of echo what you guys have already said, that it sort of felt like, or I wondered if it sort of paralleled even like, what was it, episode 2 of The Mandalorian season 2, so that the episode with the spiders in the cave,
right, where
it was part of the story, but it didn't really advance any major plot points. Right. This one didn't seem to have any big plot movements forward. So, maybe there's some sort of a setup for a future payoff, especially with, perhaps the Pikes or the Deveronian.
That's what I was thinking.
That character.
Yeah.
But beyond that, it was kind of another one of those one-off episodes where, I would say that it's definitely on the lower end of my likes for this season. So I'll be maybe a little bit more of a downer there. That it was fun, and I think like Mike, I can't like watch anything Star Wars and not like it, but this was definitely not something that I'll probably go back to.
That's, I think, a good putting it that way, with just, would you rewatch it, and
Sure.
Not as a condemnation, but just like, the only time I ever rewatched the passenger episode from Mandalorian season 2 is when I want to watch the beginning part with the jetpack thing and Baby Yoda's look, and then the shrug. Like, that's it. Then that's the end of the episode for me.
Yep.
Then they are magically on the Mon Calamari planet. So
right.
No spiders.
Right. So to jump into this episode, we all of this is local on the planet Ord Mantell, where Sid's Cantina is. And Clone Force 99 shows up, and they realize that something is wrong. Sid's Cantina is filled with other people that they're not used to seeing, and they sense that something seems to be off. And immediately, it was my second watch through, you can actually see the Pikes leaving Sid's office before Clone Force 99 kind of comes in and barges their way into the office. So I thought that was a fun kind of foreshadowing event, which I did not catch the first round through. And so they do meet the new owner of Sid's Cantina. His name is Roland Durand. He is a new character. He hasn't showed up before, but he's a Deveronian, and he has claimed the office and territory that once belonged to Sid. And he has Ruby the Lizard, and that was a callback to one of the earlier episodes. I had to go back and watch it just to refresh my memory, but he so from what I remember and what I watched, Roland commissioned Sid to commission the Bad Batch to steal this lizard for him.
That's right.
So that was back in Battle Scars, if you're interested in going back to look. So Omega wants to help Sid take back her territory after they have this conversation, and Roland is the new boss in town.
I don't know about you guys, but when they found out that Roland was kind of in charge and Sid was out, And then, they're walking out and Hunter's like, okay, we're getting off Lord Mantell. I was like, oh, okay, this is how they're getting off Lord Mantell. Great.
Right.
I thought, okay, this is how the story's going to move along and we're going to go somewhere else. And, the season is going to end somewhere else. But no. But I mean, I wasn't necessarily disappointed that we stayed on Lord Mantell. I actually thought the fact that Omega stood up, she's almost like the conscience for the Bad Batch. And, her childlike innocence of just the way that kids see things is so much more pure than the way adults see things. Cause I actually laughed after Hunter was like, okay, we're leaving, I was like, yeah, that's exactly what I probably would have done. Just, okay, bye.
There was at least a sense too that Hunter doesn't decide to just work for Roland instead.
Right.
So I mean, not that Sid's the necessarily most moral, upright character, but she's more family than Roland was, and so there was definitely at least they decided not to work for this new bad guy.
Well, I think they kind of know what to expect, sort of, from Sid, even though there's always a twist.
Right. But even I think with some of their experiences so far with Sid, they know that she I mean, it's hard to use the kind of the blanket language, but like she's on the good side. I mean, she's helping out the little guy, and she was she was the one who was procuring some of the weapons for Hera's family, right. So they kind of already at least have a sense that Sid is on the side of maybe the oppressed or the little guy who needs some help, whereas Roland may not.
But at the same time, one of the great jokes in this episode is when Tech is like, I believe she's threatening us, because Sid is saying, well, I've been good at keeping secrets. And it's like, oh, okay. So if they quit working for Sid, or they get on her bad side, is she going to spill the beans about Omega and where the Bad Batch is? That kind of planted that seed, at least in my mind.
Yeah, well, you get the impression that she, even though she's not really a joiner anyway, but even though you could probably say that she would join the Rebel Alliance before she would join the Empire, does that matter when it's pretty likely that she would at least just rat you out? You know what I mean? Like, it's like she doesn't want to get involved one way or the other, I feel like. So and we saw, I don't know, with this, maybe that was a little bit of a seed there, that this did seem to bond them a little more. Like, I don't know that they haven't really been on a mission with her, right? Or anything. Right. Like, she's been giving them orders, they go out, they do their thing, they come back. This was, maybe there's something there, that this is the first time they've kind of worked for a common end.
Or maybe her bark is just worse than her bite, and she's, she's
possible, but I don't know. You never know in Star Wars sometimes with these characters that are, like you said, not joiners. I mean, Lando was that way once, right? And he ended up disappointing a lot of people at certain moments. So yeah, I mean, I kind of wonder.
But then there's also, just to throw this out there, the Jedi trusted her too, to some degree, at least maybe for information.
But let's say, for example, and this is kind of a tangent, kind of not, but let's say that they did get on her bad side, or there was such an advantage to Sid to reveal where Omega was, let's just say, that she told somebody who was dangerous, and then did that thinking, oh, I can make things better, but then ends up not being able to make it right. You know what I'm saying? Yep. So I feel like that's kind of her character, where she, she kind of feels like she's got the plan's going to work out, and, then it's going to work out in her favor. And let's just say it doesn't one day,
Yeah. Well, and this plan that they had for this episode, it worked out in her favor, but it didn't go according to plan, as is all missions in Star Wars.
Why do they still seem to almost expect her to have told them everything they need to know. Like, I mean, these guys, like these super soldiers, but there's always something where at the last minute she's like, oh, by the way. And they're like, what? And like, come on, guys. Like, oh, man.
Yeah. True. I guess they're still not used to being hired for jobs. They're used to getting a full mission, you know, debriefing or beforehand. And yeah.
Being a mercenary is quite a different job than being a soldier. Yeah. So Sid does tell them about who Roland is, and we have another character that's introduced, at least by name, that he is the son of Issa Durand. So and she's a crime boss of some sort, and she informs Clone Force 99 that Roland has made this deal with the Pikes, and the Pikes we've seen before. They're a crime syndicate group. They are involved in kind of smuggling spice, and we've seen them in season 7 of the Clone Wars. That was Ahsoka and Rafi and I'm blanking on
the Martez sisters.
The Martez sisters. Yeah, they had that adventure dealing with the Pikes. So we have seen them before, but Roland is trying to put himself in the middle of all of this and make himself important, and wants to deal with the Pikes, and so he has taken over Sid's cantina and territory. And yeah, Omega convinces the group to help Sid, which was nice. Sid help them out, and so Omega logically argues that they should help her. And
I
so
do, by the way,
they agree.
I think they mentioned They said in this episode, I think they said Obadiah.
Yep.
But in Clone Wars season 7, they were saying Obadiah. But I like Obadiah better because as a Bible guy, every time they say Obadiah, I'm like, that's different, you know. But the Pikes, I don't know about you guys, but they kind of freak me out a little bit. They're just,
I was gonna say,
I feel like Crosshair would belong very well with them. Even sounds like them.
The design in this kind of upgraded animation, you know, seeing them, wow, I just loved it. I thought, man, they look great, and it made me realize the Pikes are just so, I mean, they're everywhere in Star Wars, like every property, I mean, almost every series. I don't know if we get any mention of them in The Mandalorian, the Pikes, but
I don't
anyways,
remember.
I'm sure we probably will down the line, but because they're really, I mean, they're everywhere, and for good reason. I mean, I think they're really great bad guys.
Yeah, they've got that slithery kind of serpent-like quality to them.
And these helmets that they had on, because they don't always have those on, but
you just don't want to mess with them.
Pretty creepy.
Well, and this is jumping to the end of the episode. I mean, when they were gonna punish Roland, I mean, it was just assumed in my mind that meant death. Like if they're gonna make you suffer, you know, but they don't kill him, but they do something that you know, still at least is humiliating and will hurt him. You know, kind of, I mean, he'll be permanently scarred for the rest of his life, but still nefarious and creepy and yeah.
Real quick question for you guys. I was just checking something here quick. I thought it was a wrong picture, but just speaking of the Pikes real quick, I know, you know, of course, because, you know, Angela was saying that they're all over the IP in different places, but with I knew they came up in Solo as far as in the movies, mentioned them, but I didn't realize, and this is on StarWars.com, like, so that's official as far as I know, but I didn't realize that most of the dudes there on Kessel that they meet when they get off the Falcon are Pikes.
Oh.
According to StarWars.com, that's the picture they put up. So like the guy that Kira's like talking to with those little things coming out. So I guess they have different like headgear and stuff like that. But it says that those are like Pikes and Pike Sentinels and stuff. So I'll have to go back and look at that later. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, and Solo would be, I mean, the movie par excellence that they would be involved in with the crime syndicate and that whole realm of things in Star Wars.
Yeah, because I thought that guy, the main guy she's dealing with, has like a key type thing on like a tassel, and he's got like these two pipe looking things almost like coming out of his mask, and I thought they were like breathing tubes or something. They might be, but now that I'm looking at some of the other helmets, like on the animated series, they have those things too, like those extensions that come down like kind of off the chin. So anyway, that's kind of cool. I didn't realize that.
Yeah. So they were a good one to bring back into play. So Sid lays out the plan to get her cantina back, and surely nothing's going to go wrong, right? Yeah. So Roland is going to be meeting with the Pikes later and to hand over a supply of spice that is hidden in the back of Sid's office. So Sid thinks that it's going to be a good idea to steal the spice so that Roland won't be able to pay, and then the Pikes will be ultimately the ones to kick him out of the cantina and punish him. A lot of sneaking around and less maybe less direct of an attack as maybe Wrecker and the rest of the Bad Batch would have wanted.
Yeah.
But in order to sneak into the back of the office without being seen, which I think is key to the whole thing, otherwise the Pikes are going to be after Sid and the Clone Force 99. They are going to be going through Ord Mantell's old mining tunnels, which run underneath the city. And so they go off on this plan, and Sid warns them to be stealthy and quiet as they have these kind of cool hand-operated carts. Sort of a rather than being on a track, though, they're hanging below a track, so they are there's just complete openness below them, and of course that's where the hive is, and they don't want to wake the hive.
New ride at Disney, I'm telling you guys. They've got to make it.
Yep.
When she said the word hive was when a little bit of hope came into my mind that they weren't going to be spiders, because we don't typically describe them in hive. But then sure enough, we go through the gates and the Disney ride begins, and then what do you see but nothing but giant webs? Or at least what looked like webs everywhere.
Yeah.
And I was just dumping grass back in the woods a couple hours ago, and there's some of those like the big webs, like the big those like the funnel type spider web, and I'm like, that's what it looked like. So anyway, they knew what they were doing. They planned it to freak me out, keep me on the edge of my seat.
And somehow Wrecker is like exhausted by working this hand crank thing on the cart.
I guess it's pretty tough.
Funny. Yeah, she's got to be.
I love how she calls them muscles. Has she done that yet? I don't know if I caught that one before. I know the other nicknames.
She's kind of got nicknames
recurred.
Probably. I don't remember.
Goggles.
She hasn't called Echo anything. Maybe she's being a little respectful to him for his trauma.
Goggles, bandana. Okay, what are the nicknames?
Dark and broody, she calls him too. Hunter's got two.
Yeah.
But yeah, muscles, I thought that was oh man.
But I thought Wrecker was the most relatable to me in this whole episode.
Yes.
Because his reaction to the hive would be totally my reaction to it. I love
and he's afraid of heights too.
Yeah.
So,
poor guy. And of course, later on when they have to go back and retrieve the spice, he's the one that has to climb down with Sid.
Yeah.
Like, of course he's the one. I mean, I as we entered into this area, so they did surprise me at this point. So Sid, all of her warnings about, don't wake the hive and be quiet. I was like, okay, we're going to wake the hive. Like something is going to happen.
Of course.
We have to. Like you can't just kind of have this set up and nothing happens. But what surprised me was that they didn't wake the hive until they went back after getting the spice. So the first round through, they managed not to wake the hive, which was also kind of funny because we have that point where Wrecker drops his flashlight down into the hive.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know about you guys, but are either of you Lord of the Rings fans?
I was waiting to see if you
Mines of Moria.
I said Mines of Moria?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh.
Exactly.
I mean, and it had very much a similar feel.
Even the sounds were a little like that hard to pinpoint, it's way in the deep, like
well, and like everything's quiet except for the sound of the flashlight hitting the walls and and everybody's on edge.
And then the sounds of the hive was kind of like, the sounds that we heard in Lord of the Rings when they were awoken.
Well, I don't at all want to equate my beautiful little daughters to giant bees. However, I couldn't help but laugh a little bit with the whole similarity between their predicament and when I'm inevitably at early in the morning or late at night tiptoeing around and you drop something and you just like, every parent ever just like, you know, like I knocked a flashlight, funny enough, the other day off of, you know, like hits and rolls on the floor, and I'm standing there like, did I wake the hive? No, it was like 2 days before the episode came out, and I was like, that calms me. I don't know, by the way, why I'm not as instinctively freaked out by like 4-foot hornets, you know, as I am by gigantic spiders. I don't know. Spiders can't fly, you know?
I've always equated it to the legs of spiders, like the way that
it's just
they
too
move.
Many.
It just, yeah, I don't know. It like hits a primal fear that
too many legs, too many eyes.
Yeah. I mean, I don't like flying insects or wasps or anything either, but I don't know, for some reason I handle those better.
I love how the way Angela's laughing at us a little bit. I'm almost expecting to see her pull a terrarium over and be like, this is my pet tarantula.
I'm laughing because I'm the opposite. I'm very allergic to bug bites. Actually, that's one reason why I was out one week a few weeks ago.
Oh no.
I had a horrible reaction, but yeah, I'm the opposite. I'm fine with seeing spiders, but no, those flying insects. I was okay with this episode though, because
there you go.
It's Star Wars. It's okay.
Yeah, and I think because it's animated, I'm very much more. I'm less freaked out, you know, versus like The Mandalorian, which is live action and meant to be realistic looking.
Like, if it were real, that's what it would be like, you know.
Right.
But it is funny because it's like I've been attacked and stung by bees multiple times. I've never been attacked by a spider once in my life. It's always a chance encounter where it freaks out more than me and tries to get away. Yep. And my whole world becomes about wiping it off the face of the earth. As it's like, leave me alone.
Yeah. And maybe for me, there's also when I was in seminary, I was in Missouri, and one of my brother seminarians got bit by a brown recluse. And, I mean, had to go to the hospital and everything. And so like there was always just this like tension. I never saw one, but so gosh, okay, we should stop talking about spiders.
But they woke the hive of giant bees.
But not this time. That was what surprised me. So like, they had, there was a little bit of a like some sort of a sound like something was woken, but not enough to cause them to go and investigate. So so thankfully the whole group does go through the mines, and they get to the back entrance of Sid's office. And meanwhile, of course, Sid had a couple of her operatives lure Ruby out of the cantina with Mantel mix in order to get Roland out of the office and keep him distracted. Apparently, the Mantel mix is a favorite for every creature. So at that point, Clone Force 99 is able to find those crates of spice and loads them as best they can into the mining cart. And of course, things just don't quite go according to plan at this point. So Ruby escapes, and Roland is able to catch up with her, and heads back to the cantina earlier than they were hoping. And this causes the chase back down to the mining carts, because they are able to spot that the spice was gone, and they were able to get down there before Clone Force 99 and Sid could fully escape.
Yeah, and at this point I was imagining the Disney ride, and so you get all the way to Sid's office, you get the spice and everything, and you're just dandy, and then here comes, these gangsters after you in the motorized carts, right? And then it becomes bumper cars, right? Because they're like knocking into each other. And then one of them like falls off. I was thinking, wow, because my favorite ride at Disneyland is the Indiana Jones ride. And so I like that kind of feeling of going through the creepy cave and, things start happening. So bumper cars, that's the second part of the ride.
I think you've nailed it though. Like, I keep thinking of, I've been to Disney World, but the one that I'm thinking of actually was a ride at Universal Orlando. There's a ride, it's at the Harry Potter part where you're riding in the Gringotts carts, and it's sort of this, it's like a 3-dimensional thing. So you got to wear these glasses. And so they have characters that are, that are attacking your cart, and you're being thrown like off the track, and you're hitting things. And I could totally, see this as that kind of a ride. It would be good though.
Be fun.
Yeah. Well, and especially for this next part, because that's where things get intense. That's the bumper carts. That's the whole thing. Because they're being chased by Roland's crew, who of course have no problems being loud and using their motors and their blasters, and this is where this is where the hive is going to be awoken. Like there's no doubt in my mind. And one of the carts gets knocked off the track, falls into the hive, and of course that's what ultimately causes them to rise up and to attack,
which is pretty grotesque. I don't know. It was like there was some kind of green slime happening, and
they didn't hold back too much on that.
Yeah.
Once they decided to throw down.
Yeah. They reminded me of Geonosians to a certain degree, but like smaller and of course non-intelligent. But yeah, lots of, so they kind of swarmed them, but they didn't quite do as much damage as I was sort of expecting after Sid's kind of comments on, if you wake the hive, like we're doomed,
we're all dead,
sort of thing. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, because they get swarmed twice even by him and come out good. But I guess I
don't know if there was anyone even wounded. I don't. Well,
so Roland's crew would have been wounded or killed. Their fate was basically unclear. They got knocked off their carts and supposedly got eaten, or I don't know. They probably didn't survive.
We didn't need to see.
Yeah. So, but thankfully, of course, Clone Force 99 is able to escape and close the door behind them. But the spice got knocked off, so that's of course going to be an issue coming up here in just a little bit. I was actually surprised at how much they put into this one episode. I sort of was, as I was watching this, I was thinking it was going to be a 2-parter, and like this was going to be the kind of the setup to part 2, going back into the spice, or back into the mines to get the spice. But it moved pretty quickly, so they put a lot into this one episode. They get back to the cantina, and Roland is questioning Sid's operative on where Sid took the spice, and before he can get an answer out of them, the Pikes arrive and demand their shipment, and are very creepy and nefarious in telling Roland that he has to fix his mistake, or he will know what true pain feels like.
He and his family.
Yeah.
Which is implying his mother also, I think.
Oh, true. Yeah, well, especially because if she's a crime boss as well. So they Roland points to Sid as the one to go to, because Sid knows where the spice is, and so rather than coming off scot-free, the Pikes demand that Sid bring back the spice that was due to them, because she knows where it's at. And so they then take Omega as sort of an insurance that they will go and get the spice and return it. So going off to retrieve the spice was a more simple extraction than I was expecting. That's again kind of why I thought like this was going to be a setup for part 2, but rather their extraction process was easier than I was expecting it to be. So rather than go back though on the mine carts, they take the Havoc Marauder to an opening in the surface of the planet, where they can just rappel down into the mines and pull up those spice cartons. And the hive is quiet again, and so they're able to find those crates with relative ease and begin to haul them back up to their ship. And things don't actually go awry until they're just about finished. They have both, I think, crates 5 and 6 loaded up, and that's when another mining cart is knocked loose, and that's what wakes the hive again. and this is where I was like, Wrecker and I are on the same wavelength here, because that was comical. His just kind of panicky call back up to Hunter to get him out of there and keep him going back up to the ship.
Once again, Tech's little his answer to the problem is fixed just in time to throw it down. So yeah, that was fun too.
When you have he as Wrecker so overconfident at first, and you just know something's gonna go wrong, from the get-go. We're not afraid of a couple bugs. Like, I am. I'm not gonna go. No. But yeah, then he does. It is funny because it seems like he gets picked on more than anyone in the whole episode. Like you were saying earlier, Father. Like it's like more is demanded of him than all the others combined. And it's almost like this karma type, whatever, just like because he said that, maybe is that the reason why?
But I liked Tech's solution to it. His light bomb, or whatever you want to call that thing. That related. Cool. Yeah, it was, and it related earlier to the episode because he was the one who noticed that the bugs responded negatively to light. Right. So he was already thinking about a solution there, but just in the nick of time, and is able to save Wrecker and Sid from the attack of the bugs. And so they do bring up all the crates of the spice, and they deliver the spice to the Pikes, and that resolves the matter at least between the Pikes and Clone Force 99. And so this is what I mentioned earlier, that they still decided to punish Roland for his mistake in all of this. And I think this is the one of the more, I guess, the deeper points of the episode, because we have Omega trying to defend him. Mm-hmm. And that was kind of brought up even a little bit later by Hunter. And so the Pikes, they don't kill him, but they cut off one of his horns, and they call it good and they leave.
Which, by the way, I thought at first that they might be the same person, but then, when I went back and double checked it, and they're clearly not, so I don't know. I mean, with Roland, what really struck me with him kind of throughout the episode is I don't know about you guys, like your take on him. He this is going to be a deep dive, but not for long. Don't worry. In terms of the way my weird brain works, the phrase half-wit came into mind as sort of like an old insult, just kind of like, a character who's just, he's like he reminds me of the quote, rich half-wit son that Fozzie plays in Muppet Treasure Island. The rich, they call him the rich. He's like, can we speak with Master Trelawney? And he's like, he's not here. Oh, but his rich half-wit son is here, you can talk to. And I almost feel like Roland's kind of, unfortunately, in that, like, he's definitely trying to make a name for himself somehow, but he doesn't really seem to really get the world that he's dealing with. So he definitely benefits very much from Omega's mercy, her speaking on his behalf. And I don't have a lot of good things to say about the Pikes, but they see I think they see the logic in it. They seem to be at least a little reasonable.
Right.
So I don't know if this is going to relate to Vizago at all, but it's interesting. That's I pulled this up on Wikipedia, but Vizago is the Broken Horn Syndicate's leader. So the name Broken Horn, this wasn't a broken horn. It was cut off. But there could be this could be a sort of even a founder to Vizago's syndicate that we see in Rebels.
Because I even went back and checked. It's the opposite horn too. That they cut off his right one. Vizago's missing half of his left one. But they don't even really look similar when you look at them side by side. Right.
They're both Deveronians, but yeah, they're not the same character.
Yeah, I think the character of Roland is interesting. When he was introduced, I was intrigued. I wasn't like invested, but I was like, oh, okay, this guy seems interesting. Especially because he was, we found out he was the guy that wanted Ruby in the first place. Mm-hmm. And who's this guy who just thinks he can just take over Sid's parlor. So as we're going through and we see that scene where he's tied up with Omega, and Omega's, trying to think, how can I get out of this? He says, just don't do it because they're going to kill us both. She gets to talking to him. And I think that was a really interesting moment too, where he's kind of, telling about his family, his mom, and just his family's way of just take what you want. And, Omega's like, oh, so your mom's a criminal too. Mm-hmm. He's like, oh, you make it sound so bad, but then she ends up kind of, I think just Omega's natural way of just speaking plainly. She speaks the truth, but she also, she's not harsh with people. She was honest. She's like, oh, that's being a criminal, like, you're a criminal. And it's interesting that he doesn't seem to see himself that way. But in the end, I think he's humiliated. Roland is. But he also, I don't know, I got this sense of like, is he going to sort of go back to his former way of life? Is he going to change in any way? Like, how has this sort of had an impact on him? Because, at the beginning, there's so much talk about his mom that, he even says like, oh, if she saw me now, mm-hmm. It's almost like he's trying to live up to the family name, and he I guess hasn't been having success, or I don't know. I just kind of got this sense of, I almost want to know more about his character. But then at the same time, we learn so much about Omega and how, like you were saying, Father Hunter says, why'd you stick up for him? And she actually says, I don't know, mm-hmm. at first, right? I thought that was so interesting. That was such a kid thing to say. It's like, I don't know. But, Ruby likes him, so he must not be all bad. And I really loved that line, because one of my pet peeves is this false dichotomy that we seem to have about people. Like, people are either good guys or bad guys, right? Especially people that we don't know. And we just judge people based off of where they come from, their situation in life, what they've done, that we're aware of, blah, blah, blah. And it's like we live in a comic book world a lot of times. So I really loved that. I mean, it's great how they do this in Star Wars, how they don't hit you over the head with it, but they just kind of like slide it in there, mm-hmm. right? How she's like, he must not be all bad, So I don't know what you guys thought about that.
No, I think that's so very true. And I think Roland is one of those characters where, especially because of the emphasis on his mom, that's probably all he ever knew growing up was the family business, which is also why he probably doesn't look at himself as a criminal, and why he was offended by that, because that was just, that's the only thing that he knows. And so, yeah, as he's trying to make a name for himself, he's doing what he knows. And, mm-hmm. Maybe not necessarily considering the morality of it, but perhaps this experience showed him that there are other ways that he can make a name for himself that aren't going to get him caught up and into this whole, the crime syndicate business. Perhaps not, but yeah, I liked what Omega said, because there's this she points out that Ruby likes him, and even that is just interesting too, because like animals just have this kind of sense too, like of someone who is a safe person to be around, and mm-hmm. So, and nobody is all bad, and I really mm-hmm. appreciated that point. We're all, if from the Catholic theological point of view, we're all made in the image and likeness of God. So we all have inherent goodness. It's what we then choose to do that determines, whether we're living our life morally or not. But even if someone is, you know, born into a bad situation, has a bad family, and thinks that, you know, what is immoral is okay and what they should do, even those persons, there's always room for redemption and you know, a changing of their ways, and you know, so like nobody is inherently set on a course that's to evil and to condemnation, you know, even if they were, you know, raised in a bad situation. So I really appreciated what Omega implied in her just 3 sentences.
Yeah, I actually looked up you know how we talk about the show titles,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes we find all these different meanings for them. And I was like, okay, Infested. Is it just about the bugs? You know, because I think it's kind of implied that Sid's parlor is also infested,
mm-hmm.
right, by these other people that we don't know. But I don't know. I was just like, I want to know something deeper, and I don't know if they were even going with this. But I looked up where infest comes from, the etymology of the word, and in Latin, infestus means hostile. So the word hostile was kind of like, you know, what you're saying with Roland, that, you know, if he were really a hostile natured person, like, would Ruby really want to be around him if Omega gets the sense that like Ruby is a good kind of creature, a good being. And yeah, it's almost like you were saying, like he's caught up in something that, you know, is beyond him. Like he really doesn't understand how the morality of things, how things really work.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I also wonder, since we've been discussing and this word hostile comes up, the Pikes. So they had Omega for a while, so they know of her. And I just wonder if maybe her or Roland or Roland's mother or one of those people in that network will end up kind of tipping off the Kaminoans about where she is.
I think there has to be some kind of connection like that.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, is Fennec still looking for her?
Didn't seem like it.
Okay,
but
yeah.
Fennec wouldn't be.
I still like the last sort of bullet point I had written down from earlier was, where is Boba? Because I don't want to push that too much, but I mean, everybody's thinking about it, because it's like, I mean, the whole team behind the Bad Batch are the ones who told us who you know what I mean? Like, I didn't come up with that, they did. You know, like she's his sister. You know, you wouldn't. I feel like it would be a failure just from a storytelling standpoint to introduce that if the only payoff on that is going to be, hey, watch Mandalorian season 3 or watch Book of Boba Fett. You know what I mean? Because we're going to do that. You know, we're going to do that anyway, of course. Mm-hmm. But just within the story that they've established here, I think, you know, I mean, almost everybody watching it has seen something Star Wars before. I can't imagine there's a big demographic of people who this is the first thing you've ever seen about Star Wars. But I think within the context of just the show itself, they gave a pretty good layout of that a couple episodes back, you know, with Tech's rundown of you know, the genetic, you know, situation and how she's Omega and there was Alpha and they can't find him. He's, you know, and they talk about him and it's there. I feel like, if nothing else, I feel like the show, he either needs to make an appearance or there needs to be some closing out at the end where she's going to find him or something. I don't know. That's kind of where my mind is at with it.
Resolution.
Yeah, I think there has to be more there, and the only reason I say all that to say that the Fennec Boba connection or origin story, but to me still seems like a pretty good way to do that, maybe, you know, because, you know, like in Mandalorian, like I think I at least assumed, I think a lot of people assumed that maybe like he just found her out there, but then all the chatter, has sort of started up recently about like, well, how far back do they go? So that'll be interesting. I think they do, of course, have a big opportunity with that in these last 3 episodes I think we have, as far as I know. So just some thoughts on that.
Another question is, I'm not sure, and I don't think we've heard either way, is whether or not there's another season of The Bad Batch coming.
I don't think it's official. I think there's like they're open to it. I heard somewhere, but
yeah. So they could maybe even explore some of that down the road.
Yeah.
But regardless, these next 3 episodes, I mean, I think it's clear that we have to circle back around to Camino and
Crosshair.
Right. We're this was sort of a calm episode on the major plot of the whole season, but I would expect the next 3 episodes to quickly ramp up and get there.
I think they have to with Crosshair, especially because he his last words, right, to Admiral I just lost his name,
Rampart.
His last words to Rampart, that permission to hunt them down, right?
Yeah,
and
he's hunting them down.
And there was part of me that was like, but you were kind of doing that before, and you blew it. So that to that end, it's like, well, this has to be sort of a no holds barred kind of. Whatever's going to happen's going to happen. I mean, I wasn't on that episode with you guys before, so I didn't get a chance to listen to it. I'm sorry. But I don't know if you guys talked about with him. I don't know. I detected at least a little visual openness to what's going on in Crosshair's head. Like, he seemed a little hesitant. I don't know. At 1 or 2 points in that episode, or like some gears were turning, or maybe he was questioning some stuff. I don't know. Either way, I think you're right, though, Father. We're going to have to clearly kind of get that resolution in these last few episodes.
Mm-hmm. Well, and whether or not he can be redeemed or pulled back, or the chip, whether they can deactivate it, or I don't know.
And I mean, they don't need his permission. You know what I mean? Like, if they can get close enough for Wrecker to knock him out, you know what I mean? Like, they didn't, Ahsoka didn't have Rex's permission.
Yep.
So, yeah, they can knock Crosshair out and take the chip out, and then he can still be a jerk, but not evil, Because I think the squad could use that. You know what I mean? Like, I think that he does fulfill a good role in that regard.
Oh, could you imagine like that happening, and then Omega and him trying to navigate that?
That would be so much fun.
Well, and I don't know. We'll see where things go the next 3 episodes. Anything else on this episode from either of you two?
Do I get any points for bringing up Muppet Treasure Island in an episode of Secrets of? But hey, Fozzie Bear, Frank Oz. So there's a connection.
Oh, very good.
Yeah. It always comes back to Star Wars. Come on.
That's right.
I'd give you a gold star if I had one.
That's nice. No, yeah, I'm just looking forward to the next few weeks. We have supposedly the title for next week, but I think they haven't leaked the last 2 weeks. Those are still TBD on the thing I was just checking.
What is the title for next week? Because I remember seeing it, but I didn't remember what it was.
War Mantle. Whatever that means.
My mind just jumped to the MCU.
That's why I almost said Warhammer. No, War Machine. Like, no, yeah. So
okay, well, it should be a good ride. So stay tuned for sure. I believe that wraps it up for our conversation this evening. So listeners, of course, we want to hear from you, and what did you think of this episode of The Bad Batch? And you can let us know through all the various ways. You can email us at starwars@sqpn.com. You can tweet at us, and you can find us on Twitter at SQPN, and you can comment on our post on Facebook at facebook.com/StarQuestMedia. And we would like to take a moment at this point to thank our patrons who make it possible for us to create the Secrets of Star Wars, including Ricky S., Jonathan S., Michael N., Catherine L., and Gregory S. Their generous donations at sqpn.com/give make it possible for us to continue the Secrets of Star Wars and all the shows at StarQuest, and you can join them by visiting sqpn.com/give. Also, of course, please make sure that you are subscribed to the show in your favorite podcast player so that you don't miss a single episode. And you can also find us on the SQPN YouTube channel. Just be sure to click that bell to get notifications. And you can also find all of our previous episodes by going to sqpn.com/Star Wars. And we will be back next week as we will be taking a deeper look into episode 14 of The Bad Batch. So until next time, Angela Cialana, thank you for joining me and sharing the secrets of Star Wars.
My pleasure.
And Mike Creevy, thanks for joining us this evening as well.
Absolutely.
And once again, I'm Father Andrew Kinstetter. Thank you for listening to the Secrets of Star Wars on StarQuest.